Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mic Check with Ken Anderson. And today we've got a very special guest. One of, I can't even put any words. Like, the Attitude Era was my era. It's the era in which I grew up. And today's guest was a huge part in that. And he's just actually released a new book called Beneath the Skirt, which is the career of Chaz Warrington. Chaz, welcome to Mic Check with Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I don't know about very special guests, but I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here.
A lot of the audience watching now will go, wait a minute, Mr. Kennedy and the Headbanger Mosh, where does that fit? So how did you guys meet? Was it in WWE? Was it at a wrestling convention? Was it in another company?
Do you want to go first?
No, go ahead. You can go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So Chaz was actually the very first person that I met as a wrestler. So the first superstar that I met when I actually started training, we actually did a show. You were part of a show in Milwaukee at a hockey game where they suspended a ring above the ice. I don't know if you recall this or not, but
Maybe
it was
vaguely,
probably 1999, 2000. And they suspended it above the ring or above the ice. And then at the end of the show, they lowered it down. And I think they had 3 or 4 matches and you were one of those. And you told me a story about there was when I thought it was when you guys were in the WWE and there was a tag team that came up to you and basically was like super disrespectful and said, hey, brother, I guess we're working tonight. And I already thought of, we'll take the heat on you and then you'll tag Glenn in and blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. And you told me that you sat there and went, yep. Yes. I love all of that. Let's do that. And then you walked up to all the boys in the locker room and said, you're going to want to gather around the monitor for this one.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that story?
Yeah. So it was actually, this is a different story than the other one I was thinking about. But yes, this I do remember vaguely. I remember very distinctly. Sitting in the locker room. And again, we had an enhancement match. And the guy came up to me and he's like, hey, we're working together. And I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, nice to meet you. And he's like, yeah, so I was thinking we should do this. I'll start with you and I can do this. And I'll get a little heat on you. I'll shoot you to the corner, come out, give you a hip toss, arm drag, whatever. The spots could have been different. But he called like this whole thing. He goes, and then I'm going to tag out and you can tag my partner in. And then you guys get a little double team stuff on him. And then I'll tag back in and then I'll cut you guys off. I'll get a little bit of heat on you and Glenn. And then we'll go into some kind of roll up finish or something. And I literally sat there going, okay, I'm kind of confused by this because, that's literally not how it works. When I first started and I was there to do jobs, it was, hey, I'm here. I'll be sitting over there in the corner. When you want to talk to me to tell me what you need me to do, let me know. So I sat there and all of a sudden out of nowhere in the locker room, I just heard, damn. And I looked over and there was Ron and Bradshaw was just shaking his head. He's like this. And he goes, this is going to be a curtain sellout tonight, isn't it? And I went, well, clearly I have to make it that way now. So you had to, you had some lessons had to be taught. So I started with the kid like he wanted to do. I let him take my arm. And as soon as he swung around, I literally just laid him out like right in the jaw. I just nailed him. And literally I just started pounding on him, took him to the corner, was chopping the hell out of him. And then the funny part is I tagged Glenn in and Glenn puts him in like an arm bar and takes him down and puts him in like a rest hold. And then the kid tug out, came back in. They brought me back in. I immediately brought that kid back in and I just lit him up like there was no tomorrow. Now, our finisher, the stage dive, the powerbomb leg drop, I do the powerbomb. Glenn does the leg drop. There's been 2 times in my entire career that I've done a leg drop, and that's when I was pissed. And we're getting ready to go. They're like, go home. So I go to tag Glenn, and Glenn starts climbing to the top, and I go, no. I go, leg drop's mine tonight. And Glenn goes, oh, shit. And I'm like, yeah. So Glenn gives him the power bomb, and I kid you not, my right butt cheek landed right on the side of this kid's head. And I just squashed him and rolled over, pinned him, 1, 2, 3. this kid was lit up from here all the way down. I mean, I literally lit him up, and then got in the back, and I was a little worried, like, okay, what kind of reaction am I going to get, from the agents? I knew the boys were going to pop for it, but I was a little worried, okay, what's this kid going to say? What's he going to do when we get in the back? Because they were through the curtain before us. And I didn't know if it was one of those instances where I had to watch, like, is he going to try to jump me as I go through the curtain or anything like that? And I got in the back. He came over. He goes, "Thank you, sir. Lesson learned. I appreciate it." He literally walked into the locker room. He grabbed his bag. He didn't even change, and out the door he went. And
wow.
that was it. And then the Glenn got a bunch of heat from the boys for not giving the receipt back, also for being the nice one. But you know how it is in the locker room. There's certain things you have to do to earn everyone's respect. And even though I had been there for 3 or 4 years at that point, just to get the revalidation of the respect from Bradshaw coming over and tapping you on the back as they walk by, and like Taker coming over doing the same thing, like it was a different level of respect, like all over again. But yeah, I never ran into the kid again. But listen, he said thank you and lesson learned, and out the door he went. But yeah, that was
Wow.
great.
Well,
Yeah.
would you have had a conversation with him had he stuck around? Like, what would you have said to him?
I probably, looking back, if he would have stuck around, I probably just would have told him, listen, you approached it all wrong. And or if he would have asked, like, hey, why did you beat the shit out of me, or why did you not correct me ahead of time, like, I would have told him, listen, you basically dropped the punk card in front of me, in front of the entire locker room, is what you did. And you had to be taught a lesson, and hopefully you learned it. And moving forward, you got to go up to whoever you're working, especially in that instance, and go, hey, I'm so and so, I understand we're working tonight. Like I said, I'll be sitting over here in the corner, and when you're ready to tell me what you want me to do, then I'll be ready to listen. Until then, I'll be sitting right there waiting.
You think that happens today in the business? Something like that?
I don't think so, because it's different now. They don't have squash matches like that anymore. They don't have the job guys. I know the indie scenes now, when I do indie shows, the guys come over and they're beyond respectful now. I haven't had anything remotely like that. They come over now and they're like, hey, we're working tonight, and, let us know when you want to talk about, whatever you want to talk about. And Glenn and I joke back now and just say, yeah, we'll call it in the ring. See you out there. And the look on their faces are like, call it in the ring? What do you mean you're going to call it in the ring? But we make them sweat it out until like literally a match be 4 hours, and then I start getting dressed, and I'm like, all right, now come talk to me, because I'm getting dressed.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's just different now. I think just because of just the way it is now. Like I said, they don't have the squash matches / job matches anymore, and I just think I think there's more education from the school sides now. Like, I was taught when I first walked into Monster Factory, when you walk into the locker room, that's not your locker room. And you go around to every single person and you shake their hand and introduce yourself. And indie shows now, when I walk into a locker room, that's their locker room. It's not mine. And I do the same thing. I go around, I shake everybody's hand. I did that when I go up to WWE. And Ken, having the school, you teach them differently. I think back then there wasn't a lot of that respect factor taught. Like when I go up to the PC and I work with the NXT kids, it's total respect. They all come over, they all say hi. So I think it's just a different generation now, because they've been taught differently.
What do you think is different? Like, we all complain, right? Like, people complain. We yell at the clouds sometimes, like, back in my day, things weren't like this. Right? Like, we know and selling, right? Selling is a big thing that people complain about today from like our generation of wrestlers. What do you think? What do you love about the current product, or what are they doing right about the business that they didn't do during the Attitude Era, during the Ruthless Aggression Era?
I think one big difference for me now, and I don't know if this is going to answer your question or not, because this is probably more on what I think needs to be done better side, is the realism. I think the realism part is lost. People just want to, crowds are so conditioned to what they see on TV, which is just zing, 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 zing. There's not a lot of rest spots, and the top matches are different when you get like, Cody and Cena or Punk and Roman when that's coming up at WrestleMania. Like that'll be different because it'll be slower. But like the NXT kids, like when I'm there, one of the things I try to coach them on is you need the moments, like you're zinging all around, but then you need a moment to stop. I think that realism part is missing.
Why?
Why do I think it's missing?
Yeah.
Because they just want to go. I think it's nerves. I think it's excitement. I think like Javon Evans. So when I've been going up to the PC for a year and a half now, and he's now on the main roster, and watching him on Raw, he's taking those moments and slowing down. I think it's just nerves. I think it's just you're trying to remember your spots, which once you start getting in there and you're thinking, oh, what's next? You're not focusing on, oh, I need to stop. I need to pause for a second. I need to let that sink in, even if it's just for a beat. You know how it is. If you lay someone out and you stop and you kind of look around and recognize for a second, it lets it sink in, and then boom, then you can switch that gear to go, switch gears to go to whatever you're doing next. And I just think crowds are so conditioned now with it being entertainment. They just all they want is all of that. So I think that's a big part that's changed, at least for me.
Do you think that so one of the things that I kind of notice is it seems like when I say green, I mean, 4 or 5 years in the business, 4 or 5 years experience. We got green guys in the ring with green guys. There aren't any more. It seems like there aren't a whole lot of veterans in the ring or in the locker room to like I'm reading your book. There were a ton of veterans who sort of pulled you aside and gave you advice. Do you feel like
so if you're talking indie wise, like indie show wise, there's no like for me, if we're going to, like the reference you brought up in the book of being in the locker room. When I first started, again, I started at the school, the Mods Factory in June of 93, April of 94, less than a year. I'm down in Memphis in USWA with, Lawler and Dundee and, Doug Gilbert, Eddie Gilbert. So you're getting pulled aside. And then I go to Smoky Mountain, and there I am with Ricky and Robert and Cornette. So, so there was people there that had done something, that had been somewhere, who you want to listen to. If you're focusing on nowadays, if you go to an indie show, you got, I don't know, Joe Blow, who's the veteran, who's been in the business for 10 years, but he's done 3 matches a year for 10 years. And that's kind of the veteran in the locker room. It's a little bit different. If you're going, to WWE or NXT, then that's different because you have, the coaches there, you have, the trainers there, and it's a little bit different. But I just think the quality maybe of the veterans on the indie shows, if we focus on the indie shows for this conversation, I think that quality is different. And even when, like I did indie shows in like Baltimore area for MEWF or MCW before we made it, we signed with WWE back in the day. We had Axel Rotten, and you had the Tom Brandys. You had guys who had been around that are still in there pulling you aside and helping out.
Yeah, I think that I think you're right. I think that actually carries on into the WWE locker room. It seems like you got 5-year vets working with 5-year vets. Like when I first started, I had, Undertaker, Kane, Batista. Well, Batista was relatively new, but Booker T and Bob Holly and Chris Benoit and Eddie and all those guys. It seems like you've got like NXT guys that just got pulled up onto the roster versus NXT guys that just got pulled up onto the roster.
Yeah. But you got the guys at the PC. So they're being, those guys, maybe they've only been around 3 or 4 years, but they've been brought up with, Johnny Moss, Steve Corino, Corey Weston. They've been through Fit Finley. They've been through Terry Taylor. Matt Bloom's there now. Sean's running things. Shawn Michaels now is running things. So so as far as that goes, they're coming up, but at the same time, those NXT guys have been working with each other for the last 2 or 3 years also. So they kind of know each other's movesets. They've been around the block together and, for the last couple of years. So I think that part of it and the training they do. I mean, the training there is crazy. I say it all the time. If I had to go through what those kids go through when I first started, I was there a few weeks ago when I had to try out. And I'm watching this tryout and I'm going, yeah, no, I don't know if I could have done it. Like, I don't know if I could have gotten through just to try out alone. It was tough.
What are we talking about? Like, what kind of stuff do they have to do?
So they, most of the kids, I think there was maybe 30, I call them all kids, 30 kids there.
Yeah.
I think maybe 10 or 12 of them were indie guys, and the rest of them were all like college athletes. And, it's a lot of cardio. I mean, tons and tons of cardio. Like the classes, when I go up and I do the guest coaching, the classes are maybe 2 hours, an hour of it's cardio. So they just had them running from one ring to the other, like hitting the ropes, doing drop down leapfrogs, hitting the ropes, trying crisscross in, and then, just calling switch and change and doing a bunch of things that way. But then, you're taught to take the bumps, but it's like bump after, like I was told, like when I first started, it was, all right, here's the couple bumps you need to learn, get in the ring, spend 10 minutes taking the bumps, and then sit over here and watch. And then at the end of class, get in there and take more bumps. It's just the cardio side. I don't know if I would have been that fit and ready for the cardio side. And then they have them doing the calisthenics, and they're doing body weight, lunges or squats, and it's like 100 to 150 to 200 at a time. Because what they're doing is, and a lot of the kids, because they already have that grit and grind built into them from being in college sports, it like wasn't a lot of them, it didn't phase them. Some of them it did. You could
They've
see
been doing that.
I don't know if I could have done that. And then you see the difference in the athleticism between some of the indie guys and then the athletic guys. So just I don't know. I just look at it and I'm like, Jesus, thank God I got in when I did, because it was like, here's how you hit the ropes, here's your bumps, practice them. Okay, now we're going to get into a lockup, and it was just just not as intense, I guess, is the biggest thing.
It feels to me like it it's weird. There's a disconnect because you're talking about all this cardio and bumps and old timers, like guys like Triple H, who's the head of everything, says regularly the moves don't matter. Like it's not about the moves, it's the stuff that we do in between the moves. It's those moments that we create,
Right.
and maybe that's where we're missing the realism, is because they're not focusing on the storytelling aspect of it. They're focused on the moves and the cardio and stuff.
No, they focus on, so again, that was just the tryout part. Once
Oh,
they're
okay.
once they're in the classes, like it's still not the same thing for that when they're in the class. When they're in the classes, yes, there's a lot of cardio, but there is focusing on storytelling, focusing on, oh, you've been working my arm, but now I'm getting heat on you. I'm having to come back, but I still got to focus on the arm. No, there's
Okay.
a lot of that. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of, they tape the matches. There's cameras there when they're practicing move sets. Then they go back and they watch them all over again. So there's a huge focus on that. I guess what I was talking about more when I first started was just the tryout where you had to go through to get the spot. But no, when you're in there, and each coach has their own different kind of skill set, I guess, of what
Yep.
they go through. And who you work with when you're in that class, okay, this is what you're going to be working on. When you're in this class, you're going to work on. And I think for me coming in, I think that's kind of where I'm very helpful, because because I work a lot with Carino with the tag teams, and I work with Johnny Moss, who works mostly with some of the ladies. And because they're seeing it all the time, I come in and I go, oh, well, if you do this a little bit different here, like little details, little tweaks here and there, I think that makes a difference as well, if that makes sense. Because you see
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
stuff, and then I watch it. So when I go and like I've become friends with a lot of them, and they're giving me their numbers or Instagram or whatever, and I'll send them a message. Hey, I saw this. Why did you do that? And then okay, maybe try to do it this way. So then when I go back up, they're like, and I'll see them do it a week later, and I go, oh shit, they listened. Like that's cool.
That's great.
To watch it unfold. So it's kind of cool.
Kevin, Connor, you're sitting there just patiently.
Just soaking it all in, like any great student of any game. One thing that I think is really important, and comes from the attitude era, of course, is character. For yourself, if you were not a headbanger, or even before you got into the business, when you were thinking about, did you have an idea as to what kind of character you would like to be? And if not, what if you could do it all again and not be a headbanger? What would you be?
Yeah, I have no idea. I literally have zero clue because when I first started at the school, I was Chaz, and I went down and then, went up to WWE TV and got the shit beat out of me a few times. And then my first match, Larry Sharp knew I hated being called Chuck. So, and I didn't even know this. In the first match, they announced me as Charles Chuck Warrington, and I hated it, and he knew it. So I was trying to come up with different ideas. I came up it's going to sound really dumb. I came up with this whole Phantom idea. I wanted to get a white mask and wear like white trunks, and I was going to be the Phantom, whatever the hell the Phantom is. And Larry was like, "Well, why do you want to cover your face?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, I had no idea of anything. And then Glenn and I started tagging, and then that just kind of helped me figure out, some kind of but even looking back now, I don't know, because the Headbanger is what I know, and it was just so easy because I'm a goofball at heart. I'm a goofball. Like, the gimmick is I like that type of music. I listen to all types of music, so I've been in the mosh pits. I understand it. I like the music. I understand the attire. Not that I wear a skirt really out in public, but I don't know, because it just was such a perfect fit for my personality, because it just gave me some way, because in real life I'm kind of introverted and laid back, and I kind of hide in the back, and I'm not really that outgoing. So this was like a different way for me, to I guess to come out, if that makes sense.
Do you think in WWE, because I think around about the time where Ken was in WWE, we started to see like the fall of proper tag teams. And when I say proper tag teams, I mean the people that got into the business as tag teams. And what you found was WWE started just putting single stars together. What do you think it takes to be a great tag team getting into the business?
I think you got to be on the same page. That's obviously the most important thing. Being on the same page, you have to somewhat, get along. Glenn and I, we hit it off. We clicked right off the bat as soon as I went down to the school. Yeah, we had, we still to this day have, little conflicts or little bickers here and there, 33 years later. But I think you just got to be on the same page with one another, and you got to have the same goals, and you got to be able to get along. And I mean, it's a little different now because you're not on the road. Like Glenn and I, when we went to Memphis, and then we went to Arkansas, and then we were in Smoky Mountain, we were together. I mean, 24/7. You're sleeping in the same hotel rooms. You're driving together for 10, 15 hours at a time. So that's the biggest thing. You kind of got to really get along, but you got to have a love for it also. And yeah, you got to figure out that medium of when I think part of after Glenn had his surgery, I don't think his heart was 100% into it anymore. And then when they put me with D'Lo, I was excited because I'm like, oh, I have someone now who wants to talk wrestling, who wants to figure out moves and wants to do this. Glenn got to the point, and I know when it's really not my story to share, but he wasn't fully comfortable with his knee after he came back from the surgery. So he was always worried he was going to get hurt again. So he wasn't fully into it. So you got to be, both of you have to be on the same page the entire time to have a really good, team.
I was listening to sorry. I was just going to say I was listening to an interview earlier, where you were talking about being in the same hotel room as Owen Hart, and that you didn't want to touch his European title. It was the tag title, and for me, I would like it reminded me that that's truly like the best tag teams are people that wanted to be tag teams, like guys like the Dudleys, yourself.
It's
Yeah.
funny you say that, Kevin, because I just came across the part in his book where he did touch Owen Hart's belt. You talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So Owen, for those that don't know or don't, I mean, Owen's just notorious. Him and Davey Boy were notorious for being ribbers and pulling jokes and pranks on people. Yeah, he came up to us one night. Everyone knew at that point. So we had that part-time contract when we first signed with WWE. And the part-time contract was, you got paid a certain amount of money for TV, but the office paid for your trans. They paid for rental car and they paid your hotel. Full-time guys had to pay their own rental car. They had to get their own rental car and pay for their own hotel. And once the boys started hearing about this contract, all of a sudden everybody wanted to ride. And Owen came up to us one night and he said to us, "Hey," he goes, "Hey, can I get a ride with you guys? Davey Boy already left." And we're like, "Well, yeah, we're not going to say no. You're freaking Owen Hart." So we ride to the town and we said to Owen, we said, "So where's Davey's hotel?" He's like, "I don't know." He goes, "He hasn't got back to me." He goes, I don't know where he is. And he goes, "Just go to your hotel and I'll get a room there." We're like, "Okay." So we go in, the hotel's sold out because we're at the TV hotel. So it's sold out. And we're like, "Well, do you want us to take you somewhere else or what do you want to do?" He goes, "No, I'll just sleep on your floor." I'm like, "Yeah, you're Owen Hart. You're not sleeping on the floor." So we get in the room. We got 2 beds, and I said that I'm the young guy. I'm the rookie. I'm like, "I'll just sleep in the chair in the corner. I'll figure it out." Owen, you take the bed. Glenn took the other bed, and then we got up the next morning, and Owen opens his bag on the bed. He starts taking all his stuff out. And then he takes the belt. He puts the European belt down, and he takes the tag belt out, and he puts it both on the dresser right next to the TV. And he goes in. He's in the shower. I get up out of the chair, walk over, and I'm looking. Glenn's standing next to me, and I'm like, "There's the fucking belt. It's right there." Like, it's far from my hand. I'm like, there's the belt. And I just grabbed it, and I jumped up on the bed, and I started jumping around like this. Glenn was on the other bed. I threw it to him. He caught it, and then the water went off in the shower. Glenn runs over, and he puts it back down on the dresser. Owen comes out. Glenn's laying in bed, and I'm sitting in the chair like this. Like, nothing to see here. And Owen comes out. He gets something out of his bag, and he turns around, dresser, looks at us, looks at the dresser, turns and goes, "You guys touched my belt, didn't you?" And we're like, "Yeah, we were jumping." He goes, "You were jumping up on the bed too." We're like, "Yeah, we were." He goes, "I knew you were going to do that." He goes, "That's why I put him out." So like, yeah, so that was the second time I ever got to touch the tag team title. So yes, it was awesome.
It's funny because people, I don't want to be a mark. Fans will come up and say, "I don't want to be a mark," but and like, we're all marks. Like, even here you are, you're in the business, you're in the WWF at the time, right? And like,
yeah,
I'm such a mark. I'm such a fan that I decided to wear tights and shave my legs and chest and wear baby oil and pretend to fight people.
Listen, I still am. I go up to the performance center every time I go in. Every time I go up, I have to get a physical with the doctors. You got to get cleared to get in the ring. So it's the blood pressure, it's this, it's that. But they now know when I go in to do all the physical stuff and let me sit and relax for 15 minutes before I take my blood pressure. Because my blood pressure is through the roof because I'm so jacked up and I'm so excited. And again, it's been 1.5 years that I've been going. But I walk through and there's Shawn. Like, I still look at Shawn Michaels and I'm like, that's fucking Shawn Michaels. Like, now I'm having, and the funniest part about it is I actually talk to Shawn more now than when we were in the locker room together for all those years. And then I go out into the to the performance center and I'm like, oh, there's Terry Taylor, there's Fit Finley. Like, still all of this goes through my head. And when they're filming LFG, like, I'm talking to Taker, but in the back of my head, I'm like, it's the fucking Undertaker. Like, it's still, I still get that way. I still freak out a little bit about it. And, but I think that's part of why I love it. I think that's part of why we do it and why we love it. And, I was up there a couple weeks ago when they were doing the tryouts and John Cena was in there. Now, I've met John Cena twice. And he was talking to, he did like a little 20-minute talk or chat, whatever, with the kids trying out. He got done. He stood over on the other side of the ring and he was talking to Matt and then he had to go outside. And when he came back in, I was still in the same spot. He looks over and he saw me. He's like, "Oh shit." He's like, "Chaz, I didn't even see you there." And I'm like, "Oh shit, that's John Cena." Like, you actually know my real name? Like, I still mark out over stuff like that. And then John and I were talking, he just had a retirement match and blah, 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 blah. But in the back of my head the whole time, like, I'm like a duck on the pond where I'm like inside, I'm like, holy shit, like, this is one of the greatest of all time who actually recognized me and came over to say hi to me and talk to me. So it's mark out all you want. Just, like back in the day, Cam, remember you weren't allowed to take pictures? Like, everyone's like, F that now, take as many pictures as possible. You need all the pictures. Yeah.
I wish I would have taken way more pictures.
Yep, me too.
You know, there's a lot of guys and men and women that are gone that I really, really wish I would have taken the picture with.
Yeah, when I was looking through pictures for the book, I was like, there's so many. I'm very thankful because there were certain, like China always had a camera. I have so many pictures with China. You know, there's certain people that had, when the digital cameras, those big giant bulky digital cameras came out, like people started carrying around those and, you know, taking more pictures and stuff like that. But I feel the same way. There's so many people I wish I would have taken pictures with. We did, it was 2 years ago at Squared Circle Expo, and it was Demolition and the Powers of Pain. They were doing a photo op. The four of them were doing a photo op. So Glenn and I'm like, let's go. So we ran down and all six of us took a picture together. And I'm like, this is awesome. And they printed out 6 pictures and they handed each of us got a picture. And then we were sitting there and here comes the guy that was watching the Powers of Pain table. And they signed the picture and they said, hey, can you guys sign this too? And we're like, yeah. And then we were like, wait a minute, gold mine. All 6 of us got together and we signed it. So there's 6 pictures in the world of us together where all of us signed it. Like stuff
That's
like
awesome.
that is just priceless stuff that you wish you had more of.
Yeah. One of the recurring themes in your book is this sort of jealousy that you experienced from people that you were training with, or whatever. Did that ever go away? When was the time? I'm sure it did. When was the time that you felt like it switched from guys being jealous to, hey, can you get me tickets to the show, brother?
It changed, I think, when we came back from Memphis the first time. Yeah. When before Glenn said to me, hey, do you want to tag? Like it was clear that it was starting to happen because Glenn and I hung out together. My girlfriend at the time and his wife at the time, they clicked. So it was just easy to hang out. And yeah, it was easy and everyone saw it. And then there was a time Glenn's like, hey, so it was like, I don't know, Saturday night or something. And his first child, Paige, was just born. She was like 3 months old. He's like, hey, we got a sitter tonight, so we're still on. And I'm like, yeah. And one of the other guys was like, oh, where we're going? And Glenn goes, well, Chaz and I are going here. I don't know what you're doing, but that's what we're doing. And at that point, I was like, oh, crap. Like Glenn doesn't care. Never has, never will. Like his whole thing is, if you don't like it, too bad. But back then Glenn was, he was the trainer at the school. He was the guy. So you didn't go against him or you didn't say anything. But, I started seeing it then. But when we started tagging, it got a little bit worse. That's when guys started getting a little stiffer with me in the ring, dropping me a little differently, treating me a little differently. And a couple of times, like I said to Glenn, I was like, shit. And I'm like, was it really necessary to hit me that hard? Like, we're just working out here. And Glenn goes, you know how to protect yourself? He goes, do it.
Hit him back.
And I went, okay. So I started giving it back and it kind of stopped. But when we went to Memphis and then came back, we were in Memphis. I think we were gone like 4 months. And then when we came back, it was a little bit different because I think in their eyes then, like I was now being able to come in, not just being the brand new green guy, but I was coming back as the green guy who had a little bit of knowledge. I could pass knowledge on of, what we did in Memphis, stories and different things I learned when I was there. I think that's when it kind of started to change because at that point also, like if I didn't want to get in the ring, I wasn't getting in the ring, and not for the reason of, oh, I'm better than you, but it was just like, okay, like Glenn and we've come back, and now we know we're going again. So I don't want to get hurt or risk kind of shit that happened before, if that makes sense.
So we know who the favorite person for you was to have in your corner. Who was your favorite opponent or opponents?
Favorite opponents?
Yeah.
2 of them. And it's a tough 1 and 2. So I'll just say 1A, 1B. 1A would be the Godwins. We just had so much fun with them. They were so easy. We gelled with them right off the bat. I think a lot of us getting along and gelling with people was because we went up for, So I started in June of 93, July of 93. I was up there doing jobs with Adam Bomb and Papa Shango. I had 4 getting the shit beat out of me matches on TV before I had like my first real match. And then we signed in November of 96. So Glenn was already going up there 2 years before me. So we had 3 to 5 years of getting to kind of know the guys in the locker room. So when we came up and we signed that first part-time deal, when we got done, we came in the back. The Godwins were standing right there at Gorilla, and they're like, we're so excited to work you guys. Like, it's going to be so great. And then Brett pulled us aside, and Brett was like, hey, this is going to be great, but hey, I'd like to kind of mentor you guys a little bit, like, if you're okay with it. And like, who's going to say no to Brett? So the Godwins were just so much fun. They were so easy. We just knew what the other one was going to do. We didn't really have to talk about anything. And then 1B would be the Outlaws, the New Age Outlaws. Billy and Road Dogg were just fun because, again, the personalities meshed really, really well. You know, we were able to feed off of one another and just have a really good time with it. And, you know, Billy was always a big help. You know, when wife was going up doing jobs, you know, him and Bart were still doing the Smoking Guns. And, you know, I'd ride a little bit with Billy, and Billy would kind of like give me some ideas and tips here and there and things like that. And you know, Billy's not going to sugarcoat things. And, you know, and if he feels like he's helping you with something, but you're not going to do it, then he's literally going to tell you to F off and you're done. So Billy was always helpful, and just Road Dogg's just, I mean, he's just Road Dogg. So, I mean, it's just was, those were my 2 favorites.
Did you have a favorite? Obviously, Glenn, you and Glenn traveled together a lot, but like, did you have a favorite riding partner or a group of people that you would travel with?
We didn't drive that much with people when we got up to WWF. In Memphis, we drove with the Rotten Brothers, Axel and Ian. And that was tons of heat we ended up getting about it, not realizing that, you know, our thought, Memphis back then was kayfabe was real. And if you were even remotely seen close to a heel, being a babyface, if you're close to a heel, and vice versa. And we drove that drive from Memphis to Nashville's 3 hours, and there's nothing in between. And we had stopped at a Wendy's, and we went through the drive-through. Lawler was inside that Wendy's and looked over and saw all 4 of us in the car together and had a fit. And we were like, well, we wear masks and we're nowhere near anywhere. Like, there's no TV here. There's like nothing. Yeah. He was like, I don't care. So those were the 2 that we drove with, probably traveled with the most, but also got tons of heat for it because we just had a good time together. WWE, we really kind of drove by ourselves. Sometimes like Shamrock would jump in, or like the story with Owen. Luna drove with us a lot. Luna was a blast. Luna Vachon, she was just awesome. We it's just, I guess I can tell this story. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I put this in the book, so I'll share this story. It's not going to hurt anybody's feelings. Like, Luna was in the back seat, and we were talking about, you know, Luna's look, the shaved head, the tattoos, and she's got that raspy little voice, and, you know, all that stuff. And it was like, we were like, Luna, like, you know, she was with Gangrel, and like, we were like, how do you date? Like, what do you like? Like, you know, you're single. Like, how do you date? And she's like, well, it ain't that hard. And I'm like, yeah, but your look, you're this. She goes, what do you think? I got glass in my pussy? And we were like, whoa. It's like stories like that, like stuff with Luna. Like, it was, you never knew what was going to come out of her mouth because it was just fun. Yeah. And that's when I think one of the biggest things, and besides, I think the biggest thing missing today is not having those territories to go and find yourself, but is the time on the road. I know like NXT now, they're doing, you know, road shows, like they're going North, South Carolina. I know they have something coming up in Washington. But it's great when they come back because they're figuring out that camaraderie of being on the road, and they're in vans together and they're hanging out together. And that's when you learn, and you get to learn each other, and you hear each other talk. Like, I talked to Henry Godwin. I talked to him quite often, and he was telling me when he first started, he drove with Harley Race all the time. Like, he sat in the back seat of Harley Race. Someone else drove. Harley sat in the front seat. And he goes, I just sat back there and shut up and listened. He goes, and I learned so much.
Amazing.
JCW Lunacy. New episodes every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on YouTube. For over 25 years, JCW has delivered the very best in pro wrestling entertainment, bringing fans deep storytelling drama, gut-busting comedy, and unbelievable in-ring action. From wild characters to unforgettable rivalries, don't miss a single moment. Tune in every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on YouTube. JCW Lunacy.
I've been working with JCW, right? Juggalo Championship Wrestling a lot recently. And I recently did a tour, and it's like old school, man. Like 10 guys in a van,
Really?
driving down the road, putting us up in Airbnbs. And it's like part of me when I was first given like this is what we're doing, I was like, man, I haven't done this in years. Like I don't want to do this again. I have so much fun doing it. I'm actually glad. Tell me a little bit.
That's awesome.
I've heard
those guys are great too, because Russo's doing that, right?
Yeah.
Is Russo got his hand in it? That's awesome. Yeah. So they so we had that whole angle with them, and we were kind of told to beat them up, to get rough with them, and we got a bunch of shit on TV about it. But years later, they called us for the Gathering. Ken, have you done the Gathering?
I just did. I just did. Yeah, one thing. I announced the match.
Okay, so go ahead.
No, I was just I announced one match. I literally was there for like a half an hour and then left.
Okay. So we had, literally beat the shit out of them in the ring on TV. And all of a sudden we got a call to do the Gathering. And I was like, oh shit, those juggalos are nuts. And they want to bring us out. I'm like, is this a receipt? Like, are we going to get a receipt? I gave them this
20 years ago
number. Yeah. I gave them an astronomical number, figuring there's no way they're going to agree. And they agreed. I said to Glenn, I go, dude, it's hard to pass this money. It's hard to say no now after they agreed to this number. And we're like, well, I go, I guess we get the shit beat out of us. I don't know. At least we'll come back with a bunch of money. And we went, and they came up to us, and they were like, so that night you guys beat the shit out of us on TV. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, here it goes. That was so awesome. We loved it. We knew we had to pay dues, and you guys made us pay our dues, and blah 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 blah. And we went on and on and on. And I was like, oh, we're good. We're safe. Like, and then they brought us back to like 3 more, and then they started putting us on like different shows. They did. Those shows were fun. I like those.
Yeah, really amazing fan base. It feels like I wasn't around for ECW, but it feels like. Do you see a similarity, because you were around for ECW? So do you see a similarity between those crowds?
Yeah, there's definitely a similarity, and they have such I almost hate to use the word, but like a cult following. Their fans are just dedicated, and the first time we went over, Vanilla Ice was on the plane with us, and we're like, that's Vanilla Ice. And like, he lifts his arm, he's got the Juggalo tattoo. And I'm like, holy shit, he's a Juggalo? Like, there's people like that. Yes. Yeah. And I've met him a few times after that, but that's a different thing. But yeah, like, you don't realize like these people that go that are hardcore fans that are like legit lawyers, and they're this and they're that. And it's just, there's something that ties in to the music. And I have a few of their songs that I use when I go to the gym. Like, it's a different feel, and I understand, I get it. But yeah, it's very, very similar. Yes, 100% to ECW.
Tell me about sponsors. This isn't something that I've heard about. You bring it up in the book. I've heard about it, but do they still exist? And how do I get one?
I don't know if they still exist or not. But we're very fortunate to have a couple of them. I'm trying to see the right way to word this. But yeah, we had 2 in Arkansas. So when we were wrestling for Burt Prentice in Ozark Mountain Wrestling, Burt just started it, and he said, hey, the pay is going to be same as Memphis, which was $40 a night. And we're like, whatever, like, we're working every night. And we got there, and it was like 40 cents a night. I mean, it was no money. And then it was like, well, you see the house is down. We're like, hey, Bert, I understand, but we got to survive. And we ended up getting one sponsor who put us up, and kind of how we paid for it was Glenn watching the kids. Like, it was very strange. A woman who Burt Prentice introduced us to allowed us to stay in her house with her 2 kids.
Yeah.
Because when she worked, she had babysitters. It was very weird. And then as it progressed, I was like, I got to get out of here. It was just it ended up turning into a toxic situation for Glenn and I, because he was more focused on, I got to make sure we have a place to stay. And I was like, yeah, but we have to go to the gym and work out. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to, try to make it and like go do promos with Bert and all this other stuff. So we eventually got out, but how we got out was we left a show and we went to get gas, and we walked in, and there's these 2 very large women who were twins. And the only way you could tell them apart was one had teeth and one did not. The only way you could tell them apart. And we walked in, and we're like we're pulling out like singles and like nickels and dimes to pay for like the $5 of gas we just got, because again, Bert wasn't paying us. And they were like, do you guys not have money? We're like, no, we wrestled for Burt Prentice. Meanwhile, we were wrestling for Burt with the masks. So they obviously, saw us take the masks off or whatever, because Burt didn't really care that much about kayfabe like Lawler did. So they were like, oh, well, we'll get you gas. We're like, you guys have food? We're like, no, like we have like some cookies or something. They're like, no, follow us. So like we followed them to, a Perkins or a Wendy's or something like that. And they bought us food. And we're like, this is cool. And then like the next night, they always sat in the front row, and Glenn and I were heels, and they were actually 2 people we picked on. We like moo them like cows and make fun of them because one had teeth and one didn't. Like they were our huckleberries. Like that's who we focused on. Ken, you pick that one person every single night. Those 2 were our people because they were just easy targets. And then we were like, shit, can we still pick on them? Like they just got us stuff. They got us gas. And so the next show we didn't. We found someone else. They're waiting outside by the car. And we're like, oh, shit. And they're like, what happened? We're like, what do you mean what happened? They're like, well, you guys didn't pick on us. Like, we enjoy that. We're like, really? They're like, yeah. So long story short, they kind of became our sponsors. They would get us gas. They would get us food. And then they went and rented us a house. They rented us this little 3-bedroom rancher, and Glenn and I were staying there, obviously. And then they started getting a little touchy-feely, lingering a little bit. And they were older. They were older. I mean, this was 95-ish. I was 24. They were probably 55, 60. So it was a little weird. So
did you?
No.
The one without the teeth.
And here's how we got around it. Because again, they were they were paying for the house, so they would just walk in. And I heard them, the car pull up. I had a bed. Glenn did not. He was sleeping on the mattress on the floor. So I called him up, like, Glenn, get in here. He goes, what? I go, take your shirt off and get in bed. He goes, what? I go, get in bed. So we're sitting there like this. Like we're cuddling, laying in bed, and they walk down the hall, and we're like, "Oh, what are you doing? Get out! Like, you can't be." We told them we were gay, and we never touched us again. But they continued to pay every bill we had, and they would do our laundry. They would bring us food. So that was good times.
That's incredible. Favorite part of the book so far.
Yeah, it was great. And the other funny part is one time they came back and I don't remember how it came up, but something happened and we're like, what happened? They're like, oh, well, no, they wanted to hang out or something. And they're like, yeah, we don't have any electricity at the house. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have electricity? Well, we had to pay your rent. So they paid our rent instead of paying our electric bill. So they had no electricity.
Dang.
That is wild.
Yeah, fantastic.
God.
Can't make that shit up.
That's wild. Talk about your Macho Man story. Time you met Macho Man for the first time.
So Macho Man is my all-time favorite. All-time favorite growing up. And that first TV I did in July was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And on the way up, like Glenn and I are talking. There's 4 of us in the car. I think like 4 or 5 of us jumped in the car and drove up there for that to do the jobs. And talking about who your favorites were and all. So Glenn knew my favorite was Macho Man. Macho Man at the time was just doing commentary. And I got in the locker room and I sat there, and it wasn't a regular locker room. It was almost like a school cafeteria. It was just one big giant room. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy shit, there's Bret Hart. Like, there's this one, there's that one, there's Sean, there's this. And I'm like, there goes Scott Steiner running across the room naked. I'm just like, holy shit. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, Macho Man's probably here. I'm like, this is nuts. So we're standing in the hallway early in the day, and you could hear him walking down the hall with that raspy voice. And he turns the corner, and I was just like a deer, and I was like, oh shit. And then next thing I know, I was all but hugging him and slamming him against the wall because Glenn was standing next to me, and Glenn shoves me right into him. I almost knocked him over. I joke and I say if I would have landed on top of him, somehow I would have impregnated him because that's how hard I hit him. And then I got up and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I just messed up bad. And I'm like trying to help him up. I'm trying to apologize. And I'm trying to look over my shoulder to see where Glenn is. And Glenn was nowhere to be found. He like pushed me and took off and turned the corner. So it was just me. So like I apologized all I could. And he was like, no, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Like he just kind of blew it off and kept going. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm if I ever want to have a career, like I have zero chance of having it now. So later that night when I had my first match, it was against Adam Bomb. And back then, Gorilla wasn't a big deal like it is now, or even back then when I was there, it was literally a curtain. And then there was one monitor right there. And that was it. So I was waiting to go out, and I'm nervous as hell, and I'm kind of pacing back and forth. And here comes Macho Man. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I don't need this now, this confrontation I may have with him right now. And he stops. He goes, first time here, kid? I'm like, yes, sir. And I said, about earlier, he's like, he goes, no, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. And he goes, oh, you're going to do fine out there. He goes, I'm sure you're nervous. I'm like, I'm nervous as hell. Like, and he's like, you know what? He goes, I have nothing going on right now. He goes, I'm going to stand right here by the monitor and I'm going to watch. And I was like, no, please do not do that. I'm about to go out there and make a fool out of myself. The last thing I need now is me knocking you over, almost knocking you over. And now you're going to watch me and see how awful I am. I went out there and did the match with Adam Bomb, bump on the floor, the power on the whole thing. And I came back, Macho Man standing right there, like he said he would. As we walked away, he threw his arm around me and he goes, kid, first time, he goes, that was great. He goes, you're going to make a lot of money in this business one day. And he slapped me in the back of the head and walked off. Never, ever had another interaction with him again. But
wow,
to have that happen, like the first night there, it was, it was pretty surreal. It was awesome.
I think one of the most impressive things about that story is the fact that you said you had never even taken a tackle before.
No, I had never. I took bumps. I ran the ropes. I never threw an offensive move whatsoever.
So this was like how far along into it? It was 3 weeks, 4 weeks into your training?
3 weeks. I started, I think the second week in June it was, and this was like July 7th. So it was literally like 3 weeks. And when Glenn said to me, hey, WWF's coming into town to do TV taping, we're all going. Can you get off Monday and Tuesday from your job? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what do you mean? Like, I can't go do that. And he's like, they're not going to use you. He goes, they've never seen you before. He goes, so that you'll get paid. They'll see you. Maybe next time they'll use you. So I was like, okay, cool. And then Tony Gurria, they had a big giant whiteboard that they rolled out. He rolled it out, and there it was, as plain as day. Adam Bomb versus Chaz Ware. And I went, Glenn? He goes, no, guess you're working. I was like, okay.
Figure it out.
Yeah, that was it. Figure it out. Yes.
You know Lenny Lane?
I know the name.
Lenny Lane was he was a WCW guy. Him and Lodi were a tag team for a while. They came out. They kind of did a gay gimmick where they stuck down lollipops on the way to the ring. He said that he had. I hate telling somebody else's story, but like it ties in so neatly. He said similar situation. He had just started training with Eddie Sharkey here in the Twin Cities, 3 weeks in or whatever. And so he's in the middle of this match, and the guy said, who he was wrestling, said, "Take it home." Or the ref said, "Take it home," or something like that. And he was like, "So I started wrestling," and I was like, he thought that "take it home" meant like he was saying, like, "You're the shits, kid. Get out of the business. Like, go home.
Go home.
Like, you don't belong here."
Take your shit and go home.
Yep.
That's funny.
Wow.
That's funny. I was just told, just you take the bump and just sell and lay there until they move you and put you where they want you. That's what I was told. So yeah, so if you watch those matches back, I literally take a bump and kind of just lay there, and I roll over this way or roll over that way, or I cover my face because I'm trying not to laugh. And I never forget the first time I walked down against Adam Bomb, and they're like, the crowd's yelling, "You suck! You're gonna get your ass kicked." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit, I suck. I don't know what I'm doing. I've been in this ring 3 weeks. I literally have no idea what the hell I'm going to do." And then you get that moment on TV, and I go like this. Big old hairy armpits, and I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, you look like such an ass. I'm like, I get this one moment to shine on TV, and that's what I do. It's terrible.
Wow.
Your era had some of the greatest tag teams, but this current era, if you were to be in WWE now, AEW, anywhere, who's the tag team that you'd most want to wrestle that you've never wrestled before?
I'd love to work the New Day. I think that would be fun. We actually, probably like a year or so ago, they were down here in Sunrise, Florida, doing I don't remember if it was Raw or SmackDown, and we turned the corner, and that was right when the New Day turned heel. And Xavier Woods comes over, and he's like, "Oh my God, like Headbangers are here!" And he went through. It was actually really cool. He went through this story of how he always wanted to be a wrestler, but he watched Ground Zero when Glenn and I won the tag belts, and how we went into the crowd, and then we went to the concession stand, and we're eating hot dogs and drinking soda. And he goes, at that point, I said, I want to be a tag team. He goes, you guys winning the belts and doing that made me want to be a tag team. And then Kofi came over. We were talking to him, and then Bruce Pritchard came over, and we're like, Bruce, we need to do this. Like, I don't know, Survivor Series. Like somehow we can tag with them or wrestle them or something. I mean, it never happened. But love to work them. And I'd love to work Hank and Tank from NXT. I just think they remind me a lot of us and kind of the New Day also, because Glenn and I became the personal appearance kings when we were there. Like if there was ever like a meet and greet, they pulled us in. They took us off the road. We did all the ticket on sales, stuff like that. And, you know, that was kind of our thing. Kind of like the New Day. You know, they were doing, you know, their personal appearances, and they do all that stuff. Hank and Tank with their personalities, I see them kind of taking over that same role, and just their energy is contagious. I don't know if you've seen them on NXT TV or not, but their energy is contagious, and the energy you see on TV is how they train at the school and we're at the PC. So just that energy, and I think it just would be a really fun match. And somehow, some way, I think it would be kind of cool because Glenn and I are, as a tag team, are officially retiring from in-ring action come July of 2026. And somehow, some way, I'd love it to be them, to get in the ring with them and put them over. Putting, you know, the New Day over would be nothing, but to get in there with Hank and Tank and put them over would be really cool. I don't know how that would happen, but you never know.
Just manifest it. I'd love to see that happen. One thing I do have to ask you, as one of the, definitely for me, one of the greatest tag teams of one of my favorite eras, tag team titles, right? From the inception of how the belts looked right up till today, right? And you can be biased because the ones you won in your era. What's the best design? For me, it is totally the one you guys won. Like if I was to ever be they're so beautiful.
I agree.
Favorite? Is it those? Yeah,
I agree. It's the one hanging on my wall right there. Yes, 100%.
What's the ugliest? What's the ugliest?
The ugliest is that penny.
Right.
You don't like the penny?
I don't like.
Oh man, stinking.
Yeah, I don't like.
I love the penny.
No.
I love it. I agree. That one is the best. The one that you guys won.
That it's literally.
I love the penny.
It's literally right there. And off air, I'll tell you a different story about it, but I won't tell you the story on air. We actually found a guy right here in Orlando who did an amazing replica of it. It's the thick plate. It's heavy. He actually put got him to put WWF Tag Team on it. Also,
that's
because
awesome.
everyone puts WWE on it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my favorite one, and that's the one when not only because it's the one I won, but growing up, like that was the one that was held by Demolition and the Hart Foundation. That's the one with the history behind it because they all touched and held that belt, and then to pin Owen for it is just it's just that's my favorite one.
100%.
Kind of like you got the wing belt behind you, yeah.
Yeah. The one that the one in your era, the one that came after this, is actually my favorite. But I don't want to get like a plastic version of it. I one day will probably get like a really well-made replica. But we could talk about titles we should do an episode actually on titles. But I do agree. When they done the brand split, when Eric Bischoff and Stephanie McMahon, they took the titles that you had won, and they made them blue almost.
Yep.
That was the last time I looked at them and was like, those are beautiful titles. Beyond there, they just kind of sucked. But
I got two more questions. One, I run a professional wrestling school. You came and graced us with your presence. You and Glenn came and graced us with your presence. What is one thing that you would say to a young Chaz getting into the business that you know now that you didn't know then? Like, what is that one thing that they need to do?
The one thing is sell. I think just selling. You look at a lot of the top guys, they knew how to sell. Flair, Shawn, Ricky Morton. You look at those guys and they knew how to sell. They know how to sell their, Dolph, Nick. They know how to sell. And sometimes you look at it and you go, oh, that's a little over the top. But at the time, it was like, oh, that's a little bit over the top. But now when you look back and you look at it and you go, it wasn't over the top at all. Learn how to sell, master selling, because it makes it harder to sell to the crowd getting beat up than it is to beat someone up. It's easy to beat someone up to make it look real. It's not as easy, when you're selling. And the other thing I would suggest is watching old tapes. And when I say old tapes, I don't even mean like the Attitude Era. I'm talking before us. Go back and watch the old NWA stuff, depending on, what you want to do. Like if you're a tag team for us, the key was not key, but a big thing was we got to Smoky Mountain. Cornette handed us a VHS tape and he said, go back, go home, watch this and take what you see and make it you. It was all Ricky and Robert versus Midnight Express. That's all it was. And we took a lot of the double team moves we do and we just made it ours. Like a lot of it is, those things. And I think the cool part for us is when we finally signed those part-time deals, our first couple of TV matches, Cornette was doing commentary. And I think that helped get us over because all Cornette talked about was the moves, the double team moves and this and that. Commentary, a lot of times they talk about different things. But yeah, learn how to sell and watch old because what's old is new now. And if no one's seeing it, everyone wants to emulate what they see on TV. Don't emulate what you see on TV. Be you, be your own person. Those are the first two. And the final thing would be just be you, be yourself. Like I was never, if I had to be the two times they said, go be Chaz, I had no idea who Chaz was. And, I knew who Mosh was and doing beaver cleavage, that was easy because I was like, just, pretending to have sex with my mother, sticking my head in her boobs, but it was easy to do. But, just figure out who you are.
In Attitude Era.
Yeah. No, there was no rules. But figure out who you are and be that person because the best gimmicks, as Ken, as you know, are the gimmicks that are part of your real life, your real personalities in it. So it would be learn how to sell what's old is new and just be yourself.
That's great advice. You said that you guys are wrapping up in 2026. Where can people get a hold of you to book you for that final run? Where can people get a hold of you to your social media? And also where can people find this book? And when is the audio version coming out?
So you can find me at all my social media is Chaz Mosh. You can see right here at Chaz Mosh. ChazMosh.com is the website, my website, where I have a calendar on there of events and stuff. We have appearances we have coming up. That's on there. You can get t-shirts there. You have figures for sale. You can buy the book there. I have something I'm working on too to add to the book. So there's always going to be some interactive things and different things going on there. But chazmosh.com is basically it, or again, anywhere on social media. Audio version is being worked on. I'm actually doing it myself. And I think, it'd be easy to dump it into AI and have AI do it. But I don't think AI would get some of the stories across of like, of giant twins with one with teeth, one with no teeth. Like, I think those stories need to be told a certain way. So I've started looking at, okay, like there's, Amazons can be so finicky with certain things. So there's different formats and stuff like that. And I'm figuring that out now. So that's going to be out hopefully, I don't know, next few months. I got to start scheduling into my day of, okay, so I got to, you got to schedule everything to get anything done. So the audio version will be out, and I'm excited for that because I think that'll be even funnier than listen to Anastasia Reed.
We're speaking of which, we're on page 306 of 392. So yeah, I think I'm gonna make it a thing. Like, this is literally the first time we've ever done that. But I was just like, hey, why don't you read it? And then I'm sitting here playing video games. I'm doing other stuff, and it's pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that was great. The video of her laughing at some of the stories was great.
Yeah, Kevin, Connor, you got anything to want to add?
Just want to thank you for everything you've contributed to for us, the fans. It was a pleasure watching your career, and I really look forward to seeing what you do in your last year. Hopefully, like you want to the way you want to end it would be great for everybody to witness that and to do what the guys used to do and still probably do to an extent, is leave the business better than what you found it by passing on to the next generation.
I love the business. The in-ring part for me is maybe kind of dwindling down. Only I still love being in a ring. I still love performing. I think maybe I'm slowing down a little bit, which, you just can't. It's just age. It's just going to happen. And we can still get around it. But I'm doing so much stuff with WWE, and you got to go through the physicals, like I said earlier, and all that I was in the ring last summer, and it's a simple bump. Lift me up for a belly to back and just drop me. Well, this big goof spins and takes a step backwards. And on the way down, I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't need to be getting hurt. Like, it's doing shows is a hobby. Like, I don't need to do this, and I don't need to get hurt and risk not being able to do other things. But I love the behind the scenes stuff. I love coaching. I love producing matches. I feel like when I go up to NXT and I work with them and I help produce a match, or if I produce my own match on Evolve, which I've done a couple of times, I'm just as invested in a match, and watching them go out and pull it off, I get just as excited as I did in the ring. And their excitement to me is great. And I love that part of it. And, we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I love the business, and I love helping. I love coaching. And probably if I'd ended up wrestling, I probably would have ended up being a teacher. I probably would have been like phys ed. I would have been like a gym teacher, but I would have coached like baseball or wrestling. Like, I would have been a coach of some sort. So I love that side of the business. And if I can somehow, give back and help that way, then, so be it. I'm all good as long as I'm involved somehow.
Yeah. On that note, obviously you're spending a lot of time with up and coming talent. Who's one person we should watch out for over the next year or so?
Oh, geez. Well, some of them you've already seen.
Or a few if you need more.
Yeah, I mean, a few of them you've already seen. Like Obafemi's just Oba's a beast. I mean, he's got it all. Like he can work, he can talk on the mic, he's got the look. He's going to be.
Sorry, one thing on Obafemi, like, he had so much to do in the Royal Rumble the other day, and he was there for like he had a lot to remember.
Yeah.
And he was there for every single one of those
He,
spots, man.
he pulled it all off. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's amazing. You got to see Sol Ruka. She's going to be amazing. Lainey Reed down at NXT. She's with the I can never remember their name. She's with JC Jane and Fallon. She's going to be amazing. Miles Bourne's going to be awesome. There's so many, like I already mentioned, Hank and Tank. You have OTM, the tag team OTM, Dark State. Those guys are just all, I mean, there's just so many that you literally watch and you go, oh my God, like I get excited, like watching the Rumble. I was watching the Rumble and I actually watched it on Sunday because Saturday I was out at my camp, but I was watching, I actually thought like, oh, I'm going to be fast forwarding through most of it. But then like, I'm seeing like, JC Jane came out and then Sol Ruka came out. Like, I'm watching all because I feel kind of invested because I know them and I've helped coach them and I've worked with them at the PC. And like, I was getting excited for them and I'm seeing like the stuff they're doing. And I was like, this is just amazing. Like OTM, we worked on this spot and they pulled the spot off. And then I showed them how Glenn and I would do the double flapjack. And one of the spots they ended on NXT last week was with the double flapjack. And I literally jumped up. I was like, yes, they pulled it off. I'm like, this, like, I get so excited. There's just so many people there. It's hard. Like Kendall Gray is going to be, she's going to be another one that's going to be awesome. There's really just so many. Every time I go up there, I leave thinking the business is in a good spot for the next 10 years with the way they're bringing people in and the way that they're sponges. They want to learn. They want to get better. And the really cool part is, Ken, I don't know how this was for you, but like you saw in the book how like the jealousy side slipped in, like other people, and they were trying to take maybe liberties with me a little bit more. And then we went to USWA, they really didn't help. They didn't want to help you get better. They just wanted to get in there and just like get you in, get you out. It's different at the PC. They all work together. Like they all know they're there. It's such a great culture that Bloom has built there. The culture is unbelievable because they're all there for the same reason, to help each other to get better, to have a good product so everyone can lift each other to get. And it's funny, you like Cena's retiring, retired. AJ is, and you see the writing on a wall for Brock and Orton, CM Punk, all these older guys. Yeah. But now you're starting to see the filter of the younger kids coming in. And you're like, wow, 5-10 years from now, it's still gonna be great, and the athleticism is gonna be awesome if they can,
off the charts.
Pull it off. Yeah.
I thought you'd say that.
Well, it's hard to because if any of them watches back and I don't call them out, then they're going to be upset. So I gotta be a little politically correct with the kids.
Excellent.
Well, Chaz, thank you so much for your time, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. This was awesome. I appreciate it. Anytime.
The pleasure is all yours.
Yes, it is. True story.
Mic check with Ken